Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're embarking on an epic journey, a trip back in time to an era when colossal giants roamed the earth. That's right, we're talking about dinosaurs. For over 150 million years, these incredible creatures dominated our planet, evolving into a breathtaking variety of shapes and sizes. From tiny, feathered critters to the largest land animals that ever lived, the world of dinosaurs is more diverse and fascinating than you can possibly imagine. So, grab your explorer's hat and your sense of wonder, because we're about to dive deep into the Mesozoic era to meet some of its most famous and infamous inhabitants. Let's get started. First, let's set the scene. The age of dinosaurs, the Mesozoic era, is split into three periods: the Triassic, the Jurassic, and the Cretaceous. Each period had its own unique climate and its own cast of dinosaur superstars. Dinosaurs themselves are broadly divided into two main groups based on their hip structure: the saurischians, or lizard-hipped dinosaurs, and the ornithischians, or bird-hipped dinosaurs. It's a bit confusing because modern birds actually evolved from the lizard-hipped group. But we'll get to that. This basic difference in anatomy led to the incredible diversity we see in the fossil record. Let's start with a group that needs no introduction: the theropods. These are the beast-footed dinosaurs, and they were the dominant predators of their time. They are saurischians, meaning they had those lizard-like hips. When you think of a classic dinosaur, you're probably picturing a theropod. They were bipedal, meaning they walked on two legs, which freed up their arms to be used for grasping prey. And of course, the most famous theropod of all is the Tyrannosaurus rex, T-Rex, the tyrant lizard king, lived during the late Cretaceous period. This powerhouse was up to 40 feet long, with a massive skull filled with banana-sized, serrated teeth. It wasn't just about bite force, though. Recent studies suggest T-Rex had an excellent sense of smell and keen eyesight, making it a truly formidable hunter. But T-Rex wasn't the only giant predator on the block. In fact, it wasn't even the biggest. That title might go to Spinosaurus. Living in what is now North Africa during the Cretaceous period, Spinosaurus was a truly unique creature. It had a massive sail on its back, formed by long spines extending from its vertebrae. What for? Maybe for display, or to regulate its body temperature. Even more fascinating, Spinosaurus is now considered to be semi-aquatic. Its long, crocodile-like snout, cone-shaped teeth perfect for catching fish, and paddle-like tail suggest it spent a lot of its time in the water, hunting like a giant, prehistoric heron. Imagine a predator longer than a T-Rex swimming in ancient rivers. It's a mind-blowing image. Not all theropods were giants, though. The group also includes the dromaeosaurs, better known as raptors, and no, I'm not talking about the oversized movie monsters, though they were still incredibly cool. Velociraptor, for example, was actually about the size of a turkey. But don't let its size fool you. These were intelligent, agile hunters. They had a distinctive, sickle-shaped claw on each foot, a deadly weapon they likely used to pin down and dispatch their prey. And here's the really cool part: we have fossil evidence that Velociraptor and many of its relatives were covered in feathers. They looked much more like birds of prey than scaly lizards. This discovery completely changed how we view dinosaurs and solidified their direct link to modern birds. Now, let's move on to the other major branch of the lizard-hipped dinosaurs, the sauropods. These were the gentle giants, the long-necked, four-legged herbivores that are some of the most awe-inspiring animals to have ever lived. Think Brachiosaurus, Diplodocus, and Argentinosaurus. These titans were the largest land animals in Earth's history. To support their incredible bulk, they had pillar-like legs and a complex system of air sacs within their bones, making their massive skeleton surprisingly lightweight, much like the bones of modern birds. Their ridiculously long necks allowed them to reach high into the treetops, browsing on foliage that no other herbivore could touch. They were like living, breathing cranes, constantly eating to fuel their enormous bodies. Imagine a herd of Argentinosaurus, each weighing up to 100 tons, thundering across the plains of ancient South America. The ground would have literally trembled beneath their feet. How did they get so big? One theory is that their immense size was a defense against the giant theropods we just talked about. When you're that big, there aren't many predators who will mess with you. They were living fortresses, masters of their environment through sheer scale alone. From the elegant Diplodocus with its whip-like tail to the towering Brachiosaurus with its giraffe-like posture, the sauropods show us the absolute limits of how large a land animal can be. Okay, let's switch gears and talk about the other major group, the ornithischians, the bird-hipped dinosaurs. Remember, despite the name, these aren't the ancestors of birds. This group was exclusively herbivorous and incredibly diverse. One of the most well-known ornithischians is the Stegosaurus. Living in the late Jurassic, this iconic dinosaur is famous for the 2 rows of large, bony plates running along its back and the 4 sharp spikes on its tail, known as a thagomizer. For years, scientists debated the purpose of the plates. Were they for defense, display, or maybe to help regulate body temperature by catching the sun or releasing heat? The current consensus leans toward display, a way to look impressive to mates or intimidating to rivals. The tail spikes, however, were definitely for business. Fossil evidence shows puncture wounds on predator bones that perfectly match Stegosaurus tail spikes. Another famous family within the bird-hipped dinosaurs is the ceratopsians, or the horned dinosaurs. The most famous of these is, without a doubt, Triceratops. Its name literally means 3-horned face, and it's easy to see why. With 2 long brow horns and a shorter nose horn, plus a massive frill of bone protecting its neck, Triceratops was built like a tank. They lived in the late Cretaceous alongside T-Rex, and you can bet there were some epic battles between the two. The frill wasn't just for protection, it was also likely used for display, and may have been brightly colored. Triceratops was a herding animal, moving across the ancient landscapes of North America in large groups, an incredible sight to imagine. Finally, within the bird-hipped group, we have the duck-billed dinosaurs, or hadrosaurs. These were some of the most common and successful dinosaurs of the late Cretaceous. Edmontosaurus is a great example. These were large herbivores that could walk on 2 or 4 legs. Their most distinct feature was their flattened, duck-like snout, which was perfect for cropping vegetation. But the coolest thing about hadrosaurs might be their head crests. Some, like Parasaurolophus, had long, hollow crests looping back from their skulls. Scientists believe these crests were connected to their nasal passages and were used as resonating chambers to produce deep, foghorn-like calls. They could communicate with each other over long distances, warning of danger or calling to their herd. They were the symphony of the Cretaceous. So, from the fearsome T-Rex and the swimming Spinosaurus to the gigantic Argentinosaurus and the armored Triceratops, the world of dinosaurs was incredibly rich and varied. They weren't just lumbering monsters, they were complex animals that filled every conceivable ecological niche for millions of years. They were hunters, grazers, swimmers, and maybe even singers. They were parents who cared for their young, and social animals that lived in herds. The more we learn from the fossil record, the more vibrant and dynamic their world becomes. What we've covered today is just the tip of the iceberg, a tiny glimpse into their magnificent reign. And with that, our journey through the age of dinosaurs comes to an end. It's truly humbling to think about these amazing creatures that once ruled our planet. What's your favorite dinosaur? Let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to hear which one fascinates you the most. If you enjoyed this trip back in time and want to see more deep dives into the wonders of the natural world, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next adventure. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.